Hi YouTube and welcome back to my channel. So I think I talked about possibly doing some cooking videos in the future, and I figured I have a meal that I'm going to prepare tonight, and I thought, well, why not? Let's try this, shall we? I think I'd also mentioned that I use a service called Sunbasket. I am not sponsored by them in any way, shape, or form. So it's a disclaimer, because I know that they would want me to say that. They are not sponsoring me. I'm not getting a single penny from them. In fact, I'm paying them for the privilege of using their products. But basically, it's one of those services, and like I think I said in my last video, is like I have a number of different, there are a number of different services like this out there. There's Blue Apron, there's Sunbasket, there's a whole bunch of them. And Sunbasket just happens to be the one that I've been using for over a year now. I think it was like last September in 2015 when my husband and I started using the service, and even though he's gone now, I am still using the service because it saves me a lot of grocery shopping. They send me the fresh food and the recipe, and I just get to cook it at home, and I don't have any food waste. I mean, I do have leftovers because it's a meal for two people, and I make it, you know, for myself, and so I have dinner and then I have lunch the next day as well. So it just kind of works out that way. So I end up with 6 meals every week, and sometimes I don't eat it for lunch. Maybe I'll have it for dinner the next night, etc. So it really just depends on how things work out for the week. But the 3 meals a week just works just right for my needs. Anyway, so that's that. Anyway, so the disclaimer's out of the way. So tonight I'm making a meal, and they're calling it Braised Cod with tomatoes, chard, artichokes, and olives. Excuse me. I don't know what happened to my voice there. So that's what I'm going to be making tonight, and for the most part the camera is going to be focused on my countertop and my cooking and everything, so you won't get to see my face the whole time, sorry. I know a lot of these cooking channels, they have like 2 cameras. They have the close-up camera for the cooking, and then you can, you know, and then they do the wide shot and everything, and I only have the 1 camera, so sorry I can't slice back and forth between close-up and this. So I'm going to introduce the video, and then I'm going to cook the meal, and then I'll plate it and everything, and then I may or may not do an outro at the end of all this. And please leave me a comment below if you like the format. This is my this is not the very first time I did a cooking video, because I did some years and years ago at my old house, but this is the first time in my new kitchen and doing this kind of Sunbasket kind of thing, so you'll see there things kind of come in containers and things a little bit for certain things. So anyway, just let me know in the comment. You know, I probably won't babble on like this the entire time, like this at the beginning of every cooking video, but this is my first one of this format. I thought, you know, I'd go ahead and do this. Let me know if, you know, like kind of talking to you about the recipe a little bit first, and then showing you the process, and then kind of like tying everything up at the end and letting you know how it tastes and everything. I can do that at the end. So watch the video, let me know what you think, and we'll go from there. And obviously I'm going to be fast forwarding and cutting bits and pieces out, so there'll be a lot of editing as well. So that's one of the reasons I haven't really done a lot of these videos in a while, because again, a lot of editing. But I'm kind of looking forward to doing some editing now, so let's just jump into it, shall we? Alright, so to begin with, before I actually start cooking, I thought I would show you guys my little kitchen setup here. You can see the stove in the background with the pan already set up. I have all the ingredients kind of set out here. This is sort of my kitchen counter a little bit, and you can see I kind of have everything kind of set up here in terms of all of the ingredients and everything like that. So I will then get in and zoom in on a close-up of the cutting board and all of the preparation. Okay, the next step is to coarsely chop the artichoke hearts, which come in this little container here. I'm just going to go ahead and dump those just right out and chop those up. Alright, those are all chopped up, and they also go into a little bowl like this, and we'll set that aside also for cooking later. And I'll go ahead and I'll rinse this cutting board as well before we get to the next step. Alright, so the next step is to take the chard. I'll go ahead and take this out of the bag here. We need to strip the leaves from the stems. and then chop everything up separately. You don't want, the stems take a lot longer to cook than the leaves. The leaves wilt really quickly, so you want to cook them in separate time. And I have 2 bowls here that I will be putting the leaves and stems into. Okay, now that the leaves and the stems have been separated, I'm going to go ahead and chop the leaves up and then chop the stems up. And with the stems, as I'm chopping them, the very end of it, I'm going to go ahead and discard the ends, just because they're a little bit iffy at this point, and then I'll just chop up the rest to cook. Okay, so the stems and leaves have been chopped and will now also be set aside to cook later. Alright, so the next step is to take the cod and pat it dry with a paper towel and just set it aside. And so that's what I'm going to do next. And just for filming efficiency, I'm going to go through and prep all the rest of the ingredients first before I start cooking, just so that I don't have to move the camera back and forth between the prep area and the cooking area. So bear with me. The instructions actually say to start cooking everything that I've prepared already into the pan, and then start working on the cod and the relish. However, because like I said, I want to move things back and forth, I'm going to do all the prep work now and then start cooking. So first things first, I'm just going to go ahead and pat these dry and prep them for cooking for later. Okay, so in order to prep the fish, I've changed cutting boards just because I do not use meat with wood or bamboo. I always use meat with plastic, and I use vegetables with the meat, with the wood and the bamboo cutting boards, just because I don't want any of the bacteria from the meats. They can kind of get into the wood, and that can kind of compromise those cutting boards. So I like plastic for any kind of meat preparation whatsoever. And if you're curious, this happens to be wild-caught Pacific cod, according to the label on here. So if you're wondering what kind of cod this is. There's quite a bit of fluid in there, so you can see why you want to make sure it's nicely patted dry before you go ahead and cook it. I'm just going to kind of leave it like this and set it aside. Alright, so the final preparation is for the olive relish that I need to prepare. So I'm going to go ahead and start working on that. So you can use either a sharp knife or food processor. I'm just going to go ahead and use a knife for this, and finally chop the olives. So it's going to be more of a coarse chop than a food processor can do, but I think it'll be fine in the end. Okay, that's not as finely chopped as I'm sure that they had intended. That's one of the reasons they mentioned the food processor, but that's not too bad. And since this is actually going into a bowl to mix into the relish, I'm just going to go ahead and place it into the bowl where I'm going to mix the relish in the first place. So let's save on dishes and just kind of do everything there. And then rinse this before I cut the next piece up. Alright, so the next thing is the parsley. So I need to strip the leaves from the stems and then chop that. so that's chopped up. We'll add that to the olives. And then we have some almond meal that we need to mix into here. So we'll just go ahead and do that real quick. And blend. And that is our relish. And we will set that aside to garnish the dish with later. Alright, so we're ready to begin cooking. We need to do about 2 tablespoons of oil in this pan, so I'm going to go ahead and put this on medium-high, and approximately 2 tablespoons there. I usually don't measure these things that closely. I just kind of eyeball some of these kinds of things. So now I have to wait for this to warm up, and then we can get started with the cooking. Alright, the oil is now hot enough, so I'm going to go ahead and start cooking. First is to put in the garlic. So I'm going to go ahead and load up the garlic press. Probably have to do 2 rounds of this. And add the shallots. We cook this for about 1 to 2 minutes. Alright, it's been 1 to 2 minutes, and next we add the artichoke hearts and the chard stems. Those are going to take a little longer to cook. And then they have Aleppo chili flakes that you can add to this recipe. I don't like things really spicy, so I am not going to add these. I'm just going to put those aside. Okay. And this has to cook for about 3 to 4 minutes. Okay, this has now been cooking for about 4 minutes, and we're ready to move on to the next step. Now we're going to add some organic diced tomatoes. They've already diced them for us, so that was nice of them. And we add the chard leaves. And finally, about a 1/4 cup of water. And this will simmer for another 2 to 4 minutes. Okay, so this has now been cooking for about 4 minutes. Now we want to add some salt. Generally you do this to taste, and I have a pretty good sense of what my taste is, so I know how much to add. And add some ground black pepper. And I'm going to spread this out, because we're going to go ahead and take the cod. I'm going to go ahead and salt the cod real quick and then place it on top of here. A little bit more salt on this side. And while the instructions don't say to cover it, I'm going to go ahead and cover this dish while it cooks for the next 9 minutes. Okay, it's been 9 minutes. Let's take a look. Yep, the fish looks like it's flaking off and cooked. So it's time to now plate this dish. Alright, so I'm prepared to plate my dinner now. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start by plating the chard and tomatoes and artichokes. And then placing one of the fillets on top. And finally, topping it off with the relish. Oh, and one thing I did forget a part of the relish. There was some fresh oregano that got chopped up and put in here, and I missed that entirely, and I did that while the fish was cooking, so you didn't not see that part. But anyway, there is the completed dish. I hope you enjoyed watching me cook today. Alright, I hope you enjoyed watching me cook this delicious meal, and I am going to go ahead and dig in. If you enjoyed this, please leave a comment below, like the video, etc. And I hope to see you guys next time. Take care. Bye-bye. It's good.